a question for you. Have you ever had, it's a weird experience, I know. Have you ever had an experience where you're looking for your sunglasses, you can't find them, and they're on top of your head? My wife does this all the time. She's got like this, giant mane of hair, and they get lost in there. I think she's probably got 2 or 3 sunglasses in her hair all the time. But, she's just, where are my sunglasses? Where are my sunglasses? I'm like, you're right on her head. And, before I start getting too superior, about 2 weeks ago, I was going through the house just kind of getting a little crazy because I'm a little nutty. I mean, I like everything where it's supposed to be and, supposed to be there all the time. And I have a special place where I put my keys, and I could not find my keys. And I'm like, my first thought is, who moved them? The kids are gone, so I can't blame them, and so I'm looking at my wife, and I'm like, have you seen my keys? Like, obviously you took them and moved them, and she's like, no. And so I look in all my normal spots. I look in my gym bag. I head out to the car. I'm like, well, maybe somehow they fell in my pocket or whatever, and I get in the car, and I'm kind of frustrated because I can't get the car door open, and I realize my keys were in my left hand. Like, the whole time, I'm getting mad and frustrated and starting to fight with her, and the keys are already in my hand. Why does that happen? How do we not see things that are right in front of us? And we're going to talk about, there's some science behind this, but before we even get that far, I want you to watch this video. And this video is an actual experiment that was done. And if you've seen it before, just hang with me. And actually, it's been updated, so there might be some new things. But I want you to watch this video about seeing things or maybe not seeing things.
The monkey business illusion. Count how many times the players wearing white pass the ball. The correct answer is 16 passes. Did you spot the gorilla? For people who haven't seen or heard about a video like this before, about half missed the gorilla. If you knew about the gorilla, you probably saw it. But did you notice the curtain changing color or the player on the black team leaving the game? Let's rewind and watch it again. Here comes the gorilla, and there goes a player, and the curtain is changing from red to gold. When you're looking for a gorilla, you often miss other unexpected events.
I think that's it. It's crazy how there are things that you see, you think you see, you don't see. Why does that happen? A couple of things, and this is actually, there's a lot of science behind it and all this, so this is Brett's version, not the scientific version. The first reason you don't see things is because your amazing brain shuts it off. Like, it doesn't want to see it. And so there was maybe a time where you would get out of the shower and look in the mirror, and now there's times that you don't get out of the shower and look in the mirror, and you don't see what you don't want to see. Your brain just kind of like blocks it out, like it doesn't even happen. You're not even aware of it. It's not there. Your brain can kind of shut things off, even though it's right in front of you. So sometimes the reason you don't see is because your brain shuts it off. The second reason is because a lot of it is just the pace of life. You're just busy, and I get it. You're running around, and you got work stuff, and there's a presentation tomorrow morning, and there's the birthday party on Saturday, and the kids got to be at practice, and then we got a game that they're doing on Friday night, and it's just constantly, life is moving so fast that it just feels like there's not time to stop and look around. Too busy being married or being a parent or working or all of those things or some of those things or whatever it is. I'm just too busy, and so a lot of important things go right by me because I was so busy. And the third thing is actually kind of a weird one. It's because you forget. You actually forget to look. And it could be because you're busy. It could be because you're preoccupied with other things. It could be a lot of reasons. But you forget to look. And you might think, okay, well, when it comes to gorillas and sunglasses and keys, what difference does it make? It's not all that important. But there's kind of a question underneath that. What if there's important things right in front of you that you're not seeing? That's exactly what happened in Matthew chapter 9 with Jesus. Jesus saw something that everybody else forgot to look at. And it's kind of crazy because not only did he see it, he took time to point it out. And he pointed out to the people that were with him, and I think it's safe to say, he'll point it out to us too. So if you've got a Bible, we're going to be in Matthew chapter 9. And Matthew 9 is kind of one of those amazing descriptions of this tour that Jesus has been on. He's been working through this whole region. He's been healing people. He's been doing miracles. He's been doing all kinds of stuff that kind of blow people away. They're just shocked and surprised and amazed. And then the last thing that Matthew records in this little area, this little description of Jesus' ministry, the last thing he talks about is that this demon-possessed man was healed, and it just blew everybody away. I mean, the crowds were buzzing. Everybody's jaw was open. The Pharisees were complaining. They were blaming Jesus for stuff. They were talking bad about him, and all this stuff is happening. And then Matthew does something that he and Luke, who wrote the Gospel of Luke and also Acts, that he and Luke both do a lot. They will take a section of Jesus' life or his ministry, and then they'll hit this moment where they kind of sum it up. And they give a little summary of why or what just happened or why this was important. And Matthew does this in Matthew 9:35. He sums up what Jesus had been doing, and he talks about something very important, what Jesus saw and how it was different than what everybody else saw. So look at this with me in Matthew chapter 9, verse 35. It says, Jesus went through all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom and healing every disease and sickness. So again, he's just kind of summing up. This is what's been going on. Verse 36. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them, because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. And then he said to his disciples, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest field. Now, if you're new to church or the Bible or stuff, a lot of this sounds kind of strange. And even if you're familiar with it, sometimes because we miss things important that are right in front of us, it's worth slowing down. Because even though that's just a few sentences, it actually says a lot. The first thing it says is that Jesus saw. And we already talked about that, this idea that Jesus saw the crowds. But this is where it gets very personal. It said Jesus saw the crowds. And as we keep reading, you're going to find out he didn't see them as a big mass of people, nameless, faceless, things to navigate around, people to avoid, stuff to kind of try to step around or step through, or people that were in his way. He didn't see them like that at all. And I know for me, right out of the gate, I'm already feeling a little bit of well, sometimes that's how I see the crowd. Like, it's just people to navigate. It's things to get around. It's things to avoid. It's people that, okay, that doesn't look good. I'm going to head this way. You know, it's all that stuff that we do when there's a big crowd of people. It says Jesus saw the crowds as sheep without a shepherd. Not a shepherd, okay, don't really know a whole lot about that, but he goes on. He didn't just see them as sheep without a shepherd. In other words, they had no leadership. They had no protection. They had nobody looking out for them. He saw them as individuals that were harassed and helpless. And that harassed and helpless it caught my attention. And so I did a little digging. What does he mean, harassed and helpless? Again, I've never had sheep. I've never been around sheep, any of that kind of stuff. The language is actually very, very vivid. The language of harassed and helpless is a picture of a sheep that has been wounded, that maybe has been bloodied, that's woozy, that maybe has had his side torn open, that may not make it. So just kind of step back. Jesus sees a crowd. No, he doesn't see a bunch of people to ignore and avoid and get around. He sees people. And not only does he see people, he sees them with no leadership and no protection, and he sees them also wounded, hurting, struggling. And just a side note, it's not just then and there. It's now. Jesus doesn't look at you or your family or the people you work with or the people that live in this city as a nameless, faceless mob of people to avoid, navigate around, and kind of try to put off to the side. He sees them and you the same way he saw the crowd then, as individuals that are often harassed and helpless, without leadership and without protection. And moving it, if you'll let me just move it out of that sheep world for just a second into real people world. He sees us where our soul has been suffocated. He sees us where we've been emotionally torn. He sees us as where we've been lied to and we've been deceived and we've been blocked off from God and we feel like we don't have a lot of hope, but somehow we have a lot of depression and we have a lot of anxiety. And he sees that. He notices that. He sees our harassed state. He sees our helpless state. See, Jesus saw what almost nobody else was seeing. He saw it. But not only did he see it, it takes another step. It says Jesus had compassion. He had compassion. And I got to admit, I get compassion wrong all the time. I'm not great at mercy. That's not one of my spiritual gifts. I try, and I want to be, but it's not great. It doesn't come naturally to me. Some of you, man, mercy just flows out of you, and I wish I was more like you. But when I hear the word compassion, I tend to think, and maybe you feel this way too, I tend to think of compassion as feeling bad for people that had bad stuff happen to them. Right? I mean, that's what compassion is. Somebody loses their job and, I feel so bad. I mean, I wish that hadn't happened to you. That's tough. Somebody has a real problem with their child. I'm like, oh my goodness, I cannot imagine. That's got to be horrible. I'm so sorry. I was translating that equals compassion. And maybe in some circles, maybe that is compassion. But this description of compassion is incredibly different. It's incredibly different. Have you ever had the the moment, the experience, where there's something going on in your life, and it's hurting you, and it's hurting other people, bad habit or an addiction or something like this, and you reach that point where you just like, enough. I'm not going to do this anymore. This has got to change. I'm not going to keep spending that way. I'm not going to keep drinking like that. I'm not going to keep looking at those things. I'm not going to keep clicking on that. I'm not going to keep avoiding my family. I mean, whatever it is, that you reach that point where you're just built up with almost frustration and determination at the same time, and you're like, this has got to change. Something has got to be different. I can't do this anymore. I'm going to learn how to manage my money. I'm going to get better at my relationships. I'm going to quit taking in that substance. Whatever it is, something has to change, and I'm going to do something about it. I mean, almost everybody has had that experience. The variables are different of why you did it and what it was about, but we've all had that moment where we're kind of like, enough. Something's got to change. That is closer to the compassion that Jesus feels than, I'm sorry, that looks like it hurts. It's something that welled up inside of him that said, no more. Something has to change. This can't continue. I see the harassment. I see the helplessness. I see the loss of hope. I see the struggle that you've tried to dig yourself out and you haven't been able to. I see that, and something has got to change. I have compassion. I have determination. I have a fire to do something about it. So he saw, and he had compassion. And if you've been reading, and maybe some of you have, I would encourage you, go back and read Matthew chapter 9. It will take you 5 minutes, but it really help you understand what's going on. If you read that, and then you read this summary, you would likely think that Jesus' answer would be like he would just start kind of healing people, or he'd do some kind of massive miracle where he'd feed everybody, or help everybody, or give people power, or he would just do something, kind of dramatic and big and powerful. But he doesn't. It's kind of odd, actually, what he does. Like, you see all this, and you have this fire and determination and passion to do something, Jesus, and then what you do is you invite people to pray. Well, that seems odd. Jesus invites his followers, and by extension, if you're a follower of Jesus, this would mean you. Jesus invites you. I mean, he's literally inviting you as his follower to pray. Which we know, let's kind of cards on the table, right? A lot of us think of prayer as, that's one of those things you do. It's kind of a religious thing. It probably helps, but, at the end of the day, I got to do something. Or I got to get other people to do something. Or, it's kind of like saying, thoughts and prayers, and we just kind of let it go at that. And we sometimes make the mistake of thinking that prayer is just some kind of emotional, sympathetic answer to a problem, and then we have to go out and solve the problem. Right? I mean, let's just be honest. For a lot of us, that's kind of the way we think about it. And so to hear Jesus get all fired up and determined, and he sees this, and he's got all this compassion and everything else, and then he turns around and he says, well, and you should pray. We don't want to say it out loud. We're kind of let down. We'd like something more, substantial. And Jesus says, I want you to pray. And he's very specific about the prayer. He says, I want you to pray that there would be workers, that the Father would send out workers into the harvest field. Which, again, I'm not a sheep person. I'm not a farmer either. And so I had to go back and check this. What is all this about? Harvest. And you can imagine this. If you're in a culture where everything revolves around farming, that's how you get your food. That's how you feed the animals. I mean, everything kind of depends on this. So it's important. Harvest was really two things. It was a lot of work because they didn't have big old tractors that would go out and do everything. I mean, you literally had to walk up and down the rows of plants and pull and cut and harvest stuff. Pick things. I mean, it was a lot of manual work. But it was also an intense time of celebration. Again, it makes sense. Why would people be celebrating? Well, because they knew we've got food for the next year. That's a good thing. We've got seed to plant to get food for the year after that. So harvest was always a celebration of all the hard work we've done, all the plowing and planting and watering and weeding and waiting. And then finally it's here. It was a lot of work. And it was also a big celebration. So, what is Jesus asking us to pray for? He's asking us to pray that God would send people out to do some work and to celebrate. Which, again, sounds a little strange. Jesus is saying, here's what I want you to do if you're my follower. I want you to pray. I want you to pray that people would go out into this harvest, and we'll talk about what the harvest is in just a second, and work. And not only they'd go out and work, but they'd go out and celebrate because the harvest is plentiful. Plenty of opportunity, plenty going on. It's not so much that we need things. It's not that we don't have enough workers, so to speak. It is there's an incredible opportunity here for you. And so he's saying, pray that people would take advantage of this opportunity and be able to celebrate after the work they've done. Why would he do this? Again, it seems misplaced. Couldn't you do something kind of dramatic and just pow and mic drop moment and everybody's like, ha, I like that. This doesn't seem as dramatic or interesting or powerful as the amazing things that Jesus would do. Here's what I think. This is Brett's opinion, so you can do with it what you want. I think Jesus knew something about them, and I think he knows something about you. That seeing what Jesus sees leads me to do what Jesus does. When I start to see things the way Jesus sees them, it leads me to start doing things the way Jesus does them. And if I miss it, if I miss the important things that Jesus puts in front of me, track with me, I may miss the important things that Jesus has for me because I didn't see them. And nobody wants that. Nobody wants to step away from that, to lose that, to feel like that's been taken away from them. Seeing what Jesus sees leads me to do what Jesus does. He talks about this harvest. What is a harvest? I mean, it's agricultural. He's making an analogy, a comparison. Harvest. He's talking about people. He's talking about people that are harassed and helpless, frustrated, struggling. He's talking about your friend that recently got divorced. He's talking about the single mom that's always in line at the school pickup line that looks so tired and worn out. He's talking about the student that sits next to you in class that just seems to be hit with one struggle after another. He's talking about the single guy that shows up at church and always seems to be by himself. He's talking about the middle schooler that needs a steady adult presence in their life because at home they just don't have one. He's saying the harvest is all around you. It is there. As a matter of fact, you don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to take a big trip. You don't have to do anything unusual other than look again. You just need to look again. It's there. It's in front of you. He's saying there's an opportunity right here, right now. I've been a follower of Jesus for, we got to do some math, 47 years? Long time. I know I don't look that old, but yeah. It's a long time. Some of you have been following Jesus similar, decades, or maybe even longer than that. And it's so easy, isn't it? It's so easy to forget what it felt like to be harassed and helpless. Because, and I hope that you're living this way, okay? I really do. As a follower of Jesus, man, God has called me to live a victorious life. Doesn't mean my life always goes right. Doesn't mean I don't have any emotional pain or relational drama. Of course I do. Of course that happens to every single person. But he has called me to live the life. I am more than a conqueror. I am a son of the king, or a son or a daughter of the king, whatever the case may be. I am a privileged, made holy, made righteous, spirit-infused follower of Jesus. I can't be harassed and helpless the same way that somebody that does not have Jesus can be harassed and helpless. And I think that's why he invites us. You got to look again. Because if you've been walking with me for a while, you can forget what it was like when you were harassed and helpless. I recently came across a description. It upset me, and it upset me in a good way. And I hope that in some ways it upsets you too as you hear it in just a moment. But there's a description of somebody that was recently became a follower of Jesus. And they asked them about their life before they became a follower of Jesus. They said, what was it like? What was going on? How was your world? What did it feel like? What were the kind of the things that were happening? How were the relationships? How was your mindset? Kind of your mental health, your spiritual health? What was it like when you were harassed and helpless? And so I want you to do something. We're going to put up a picture here in just a moment. I want you to look at the crowd, and I want you to hear the description of harassed and helpless.
What's my world like? It feels empty, even when life is full. When things get quiet, the same question keeps chipping away at me. Is this it? I usually don't feel like I know where I'm going or how to figure out life. I don't really know who I am, why I'm here, or even what's broken inside of me. But it hurts. I don't think anyone really knows me. Is it easier to go from being numb and scroll, or just get angry and be cold? I've tried a few things to get out of this cul-de-sac, but I end up back in the same space. I don't sleep well. I have more followers on Insta, but my depression is real. Our marriage appears to be stable, but we both know we're drifting apart. My life is just a well-decorated cage.
How could that be? They were all young and thin and happy and smiling for their camera. That's the harvest. That's the people you live next to. That's the people you work with. That's the people you go to class with. That is harassed and helpless. And like I said, I have to be honest, it bothered me. Because I have been known to settle for the happy exterior must equal that they're fine. And the reality is, it doesn't matter how pretty or how handsome or how thin or how well dressed or how much money that you have. If you're harassed and helpless, it dominates every part of your life. And yeah, you can find an experience, and you can find a moment, and you can have a special family day, and you can do some of the things to take your mind off it here, there, or somewhere. But Jesus saw the crowd, and he saw that they were like sheep without a shepherd, that they were harassed, and they were helpless. He was compassionate. And in order to do something about it, he said, you know what? I'm going to ask my followers to pray. I'm going to ask them to pray. I want them to pray, and I want them to ask for more. Ask for more. He said, I want you to pray. I want you to ask for more, that Father would send more people out into the harvest field where these people are hurt and harassed and helpless, and help bring in the harvest. Because it's right in front of them. It's right around them. They may not be seeing it. It could just be that their brain has turned it off because it's so hard to look at the struggle. It could be because they're so busy they just haven't slowed down long enough to realize it. It could be they just forgot. But I want you to look, and I want you to ask for more. Ask for more. And as you're asking for more, again, this is Brett, so do with it what you want. I think for me anyway, not only do I need to ask the Father to send more people out in the harvest field, I need to ask for me to see a little bit more clearly what Jesus sees. To have a little bit more of that compassion and determination and fire that Jesus has. Because sometimes those run pretty low in my life if I allow them to. And his answer, again, there's tension there, isn't there? It's kind of like on the one hand, well, we should pray, and then on the other hand, it's easy to kind of knock that off and just, but let me say it this way. This is not your pastor asking you to pray. If you're a follower of Jesus, if you're not, you're off the hook. You don't have to worry about this at all. But if you're a follower of Jesus, the one you follow is telling you, I want you to pray. If I really follow him, and he's being very, very clear about what he wants me to do, what else can I do, right? Of course I'm going to pray. Of course I will ask the Father to send more out there, to do the work, and to celebrate the harvest coming in. In other words, lives changing because they're hearing this kingdom news that everything is different because of Jesus. Of course I will pray for that. Why wouldn't I? But I got to give you a heads up. As a follower, you don't have an out, okay? You don't. There's no way you can get around like, am I supposed to do this or not? I mean, it's crystal clear. But if you're going to, you need to be ready. You need to be ready. Because if you keep reading, that's the end of Matthew 9. Guess what happens in Matthew chapter 10, verse 1? Jesus sends them out. He said, guys, you see this? You see what's going on? You see how these people are? You see what's happening in their world and in their life? How messed up it is? How chaotic it is? How frustrating and hopeless it is? We need to pray to ask the Father to send people out. And by the way, you guys pair up because you're going. That's what is coming next. That's why you need to be ready. He's going to send you. He's absolutely, no question about it, going to send you. And that's not something to be scared of. That's not something to avoid or put off. Why is he sending you? For your good and for theirs. This isn't a situation where Jesus needs your help. Like, he's like, oh no, this whole thing is going to fall apart if you won't go, and if you won't do this, it's all going to fall apart. Nothing's going to happen. No. Jesus is far and away in control. There's no struggle there on his end. There's an opportunity for you. Remember what I said earlier, sometimes if you miss seeing the important things, you miss out on being a part of the important things. It's the same situation. You need to be ready. Reminds me, there's a man in the Bible that lived about 500-ish years before Jesus. His name was Isaiah. And Isaiah had a life-defining moment. He had a vision of God, and he describes it. He writes it down, and it's just reading the description is kind of awe-inspiring. But he talks about, he had this moment where he saw God on his throne, and it just completely overwhelmed him. And his response to that was, in essence, I'm not worthy. He said, God, I don't even the words out of my mouth are not worthy. Like my lips aren't even clean. The people I live with, I mean, we're all a mess compared to you. I can't be here. And God sends an angel to touch his mouth, symbolic, to touch his mouth with a coal, to purify his mouth. And it sent a message to Isaiah. Isaiah realized, God has done the work. He has reconciled me back to him. Even though I'm not worthy, he has accepted me. And do you know what his response was? As soon as he realized God accepted him. It's a classic statement. It's been banging around Christianity for a couple of thousand years. He said, here am I. Send me. When I had an encounter with God, my first response was, here am I. Send me, God. Allow me to go. Give me the privilege. Reminds me of John chapter 4. Jesus kind of uses this same analogy. He's talking about the harvest again. And he says, you don't have to go anywhere difficult. You don't have to go far. It's right there. The harvest is right there. He says, in essence, all you have to do is look up. And here's where these ancient words and kind of a little bit of unusual analogy seeps right into your life. We've already talked about you need to look again. You need to be ready. that here I am, send me, he will send you. He's asking you to pray to prepare your heart so that you can be sent. And I know, there is a level of that it feels a little scary. Sent where? To who? What if they say this? What if they say that? What if they don't respond? How about if they're, what if they're ugly or mean? Or what if it costs me something? And I understand that. I do. I understand that there is a hesitation there because it feels so risky. But I said earlier, as we got ready to start this series, shared with you guys a week or two ago, I feel like this is so timely. Because if you look out on the broader landscape, and you may not know this, I pay attention to some of this stuff. Did you know that in the last probably 9 months, we have sold more Bibles than any other time during U.S. history in a 9-month window? Wow, that's weird. Why is everybody buying a Bible? Especially when they're free online. Why is everybody buying one? Did you know that in Europe, the movement of young men, defined by men between the ages of 18 and 30, moving towards Christ and attending church, has gone up 400%. 400%. And we're starting to see that happen in America. Did you know that in the last year and a half, college campuses all over the United States have experienced what most people can't help but call revival, where they have seen hundreds, if not thousands, of college students saying, I want to follow Jesus. And at the same time, if you read the headlines, it seems like every week, every 2 weeks, every month, there's another war that breaks out. There's another economic crisis happening. There's another weird thing going on. There's things like the murder of Charlie Kirk. There's all these things going on. And you know what's happening? People are looking around and going, I don't know what to do. I'm looking. I'll buy a Bible. Maybe there's an answer there. I'll go to church. Maybe they have something. I don't know. But I know that I'm struggling. I know that my life feels like a well-decorated cage, and I need something. Maybe you felt like you don't know what to do. Maybe you felt that pressure of what is happening around us. Jesus has given us a great answer. Go live sent. Pray that the Father would send out workers into this harvest field. And be ready, because he's going to send you. And if you think about it, what we really need is we need a movement. We need a movement of God. Not just, and there's nothing wrong with a person here or there becoming a follower of Jesus. I think that's fantastic, and we want that, and we celebrate that, and we baptize, and we make a big deal out of it because it is a big deal. But what we really need, and maybe what we're on the precipice of, is a movement of God. Something different than any of us have ever seen before. And I do know this. If you're willing to look at it and see the important things, God's going to include you in those important things. See, we don't want to wait for the movement. We want to be the movement. It's easy to get paralyzed. It's easy to tap out. It's easy to hold back and say, let's wait and see. But your neighbor needs a movement. The student next to you needs a movement. The young adult that's trying to figure it out, that thought maybe the government could give them an answer, or maybe experimenting with their sexuality could give them an answer, or maybe social media could give them an answer. They need a movement of God. And it comes when people are willing to pray and be sent. And so that's what we're going to be talking about here over the next several weeks, what that looks like and how that works. And so I hope that you will be a part of that. And to me, what's the most exciting about all of this is we get to do it together. We get to do it together. Some of you have been out working in the harvest field for years. Thank you. And you know the value of it. And some of you, you're like, I don't know. I maybe take a step. I don't know what that would look like. I don't know what that would be. You don't have to do it by yourself. We're going to do this together. We're not going to wait, but we're going to see the things that Jesus sees. We're going to allow him to build a compassion in us like he already has. And then you, the vision-seeing, determined, compassion-feeling follower of Jesus, is going to go with us as we are sent out to work and to celebrate as lives change. It's going to be phenomenal. I cannot wait to do this with you. Let's pray together. Father, I'll start just confessing. You're so plain and so clear to pray for the harvest, and there's times I don't. Father, there's times that I'm blinded by shiny things. I'm blinded by just my own selfishness. And so, Father, I confess, and I know there's many here that would confess along with me that you've been really, really clear, and somehow we've missed it. So thank you for being patient with us and showing us again this morning what the harvest looks like. Thank you for including us and sending us out. This isn't something for us to watch from the sidelines and just applaud, but rather you invite us to come on down to the field and get in the game. Jesus, thank you for doing it that way. You could have done something spectacular, something we couldn't explain, something that we could never repeat. But you chose to invite us in and allow us to be part of the amazing work that you're doing. And so we thank you for that. And Father, on top of that, we get to do it together. We don't have to do this by ourselves. We don't have to figure it out all on our own. You're so, so good. Father, I pray for each person here this morning, for those that are not yet a follower of Jesus, that you would work in their heart and draw them to yourself. And this idea of having this purpose and this mission would just resonate in their heart and draw them to Jesus, that they would become a follower of his. And for those of us that already know who you are, and we have given our lives to following you, Father, give us the courage to pray. Get us ready and send us out. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.